Boris Johnson admits he doesn't know his own Brexit plan in car crash interview.
Here's a summary of the article.
Boris Johnson has admitted he doesn't know what is in his own Brexit plan in a car crash TV interview. Boastful Mr. Johnson tonight insisted he could pursue the plan, despite experts and the Governor of the Bank of England saying it is impossible. Asked directly if he even knows what's in 5C, Boris Johnson, who is set to become Prime Minister in 12 days, replied, no. Despite this, Boris Johnson claims Britain can get a standstill arrangement from November 1 onwards under GAT 24 to prevent crippling new tariffs. Plan A is to renegotiate the Brexit deal and come out with a deal on October 31. It came as Boris Johnson and Jeremy Hunt clashed over the deadline for Brexit tonight, with Mr Hunt refusing to guarantee EU withdrawal by Christmas. Grilled on the row, Boris Johnson finally admitted he should have stood up more for Sir Kim Darroch, after being heckled by a furious Tory member.
This post received a score of 4,843, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
He ends with, "Why can't you rely on the common sense of both parties to get it done? Really? Really? They've had years and have literally only managed to make it worse."
Common sense would dictate that they had a fucking plan to begin with, long before pulling the trigger on Art.50. These incompetent and dishonest shitpiles are beyond any kind of saving or redemption.
Greater than common sense would dictate that they had a fucking plan to begin with, long before pulling the trigger on Art. Oh, they had a plan. They would ask the EU to give them every advantage of being a member, none of the disadvantages, and EU would give it to them just because. Then the plan left dream world and ran into the real world.
Greater than they would ask the EU to give them every advantage of being a member, none of the disadvantages. The UK already had that, they controlled their own currency.
De facto nobody has to join the euro. The UK and Denmark have explicit opt-outs, but Sweden's not joined even though they've always met the criteria simply because they don't want to. They've technically agreed to join the euro, but the treaty doesn't say _when_. Great comeback. I may not always agree with Andrew Neil's political views, but he's one of my favorite political journalists, interviewers. He comes prepared and knowledgeable about issues pertaining to the guests invited to his show. Always grills his guests and doesn't usually let them bullshit their way out of answering questions. He's made both Alex Jones 1 and Ben Shapiro 2 break down on air.
I love this because it highlights the fact that Ben Shapiro really did get famous off of arguing with students half his age.
Well, when 99% of his videos owning people are that, kinda makes you wonder how else he got famous.
His Brexit plan, get as much money as he can from the disaster, leave the UK when he's done.
He really is the British Trump.
How embarrassing.
I don't know anything about British politics, but the way the journalist called him out on his bullshit was awesome. You could feel the panic the first time he replied he'd confide entirely on paragraph 5b. And he has the balls to say the journalist mixed an article with a paragraph first. Oh, okay.
He is a pathetic man.
The problem with the GATT solution is that it is meant to provide the stopgap to continue to trade while ironing out the details of an agreement. It requires both sides and the rest of the world to agree to it. It is not a solution that Britain can just declare on its own. Seeing how Britain has just burned a lot of bridges under while Johnson was in charge of that foreign relations stuff, and how he is now campaigning for PM by declaring how he would not cooperate with the EU at all and withhold the money the UK owes the EU, the chances of Britain getting any support from anyone are pretty slim.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.